Welcome to Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Petersen, formerly Conversations with Kimen. This podcast is a space for inspiration, soulful insights, and meaningful life lessons. Your host, Kimen Petersen, draws from personal stories and powerful conversations with remarkable people to help illuminate your path. These episodes reflect his lived experiences and thoughtful perspectives, all aimed at encouraging you to live life with greater authenticity, joy, and ease. Your Inner Advocate is here to help you tune in, trust your inner wisdom, and move through life with more clarity, flow, and fulfillment.
Welcome back. Today I want to bring up an interesting conversation. If you heard some of my other episodes, I talk about how change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, and how your perception affects your reality. So today I want to talk about another aspect of the same thing. And when I first heard it, it hit me like a lightning bolt. Change the way you listen to people, and what you hear will change. Because listening is actually an active process. But the funny thing is, like a lot of things, like in one of my episodes, I talked about control. And the fact is you have no control over people, places, or things. You have no control over the future. The only thing you have is the ability to learn to control how you react. And just like this, a lot of times we fall into a way of listening. And certain people, it's clouded in different ways depending on our relationship. And it's amazing how two people can say nearly the same thing, and one of them will frustrate or hurt us, and the other one will open our eyes. You know, most of us think we're great listeners. But the truth is, just being quiet while somebody else talks is not an aspect of a great listener. You know, but if we're being really honest, we're not really listening. We're actually translating. We're translating what's being said through our memories, through our vision, through our beliefs, through the idea of how that person is, maybe through our fears, and sometimes through our emotional wounds. And all these invisible stories that we carry about, you know, who people are and what they really mean when they say something. So today we're going to step into this inner world, kind of behind your ears. It's a quiet place where a meaning is made, often without noticing. I don't know if I've said this before, but have you ever heard that nothing has any meaning, truly has any meaning? Nothing inherently and neutrally, or nothing has meaning until the point that we place meaning on it. Which, you know, kind of suggests that we have power to change. And the problem is, though, we don't believe we have that power. And we believe this is the way things are. So we just flow with the meaning that we've been placing on things over the years. And we keep on flowing in that direction. And it's almost like being blown around by the wind, and not understanding that we actually have control of the rudder and the sails. So talking about changing the way you listen is a way to take over and start steering the ship in directions that work for you and take you forward in life. And literally, when I'm talking about this, we have some sort of confirmation bias. If you've ever heard of confirmation bias, is when you really believe something is going to be this way, and then you pick and choose evidence to prove your thesis, while you ignore any evidence that doesn't support. So we live this life of like an emotional confirmation bias. We've got emotional filters, and we even have inherited languages of love, or languages of love through people in our life that we've been dealing with our whole life, and that we don't actually see it as love. We see it as criticism, or, just being mean, or, not caring. And sometimes we actually don't even realize that we're speaking out of our language of love. There's this quote that shaped much of how I see human behavior. And it's simple. We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. Just like I said, change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. Change the way you listen. And the things you hear change. And this isn't just about sight, right? Like, we don't see. It is about hearing as well. We hear through emotional fragments left over from childhood. We hear through narratives that once protected us, but now they confine us. And we hear what our fears are listening for, right? Where your attention goes, your life flows. So I'm going to propose that we have lenses that we listen through. Every one of us walks through life wearing an emotional lens, and it's invisible but powerful. If you truly believe that somebody doesn't like you, that you don't fit in, that people look down on you, then your ears, your listening will start scanning for proof. And it's almost like picking up like radar. You ever seen the radar of the clouds dropping rain on the news for the weather in the morning? And if you've really internalized the idea that someone is critical, even the neutral comments sound like a personal attack, like a judgment. And most of all, and this is one of the things I lived through for so many years of my life, if your deepest fear is that you're not enough, even the gentlest suggestion can feel like confirmation of your worst insecurities. And it's not their voice. It's an echo from your older wounds. It's like a ghost of your past trying to translate the present. And here's the strange thing. We would take advice from coworkers, bosses, strangers on the internet. But when our family says the same thing, we tense out, we shut down, we feel exposed or misunderstood, because family has a map to the unhealed parts of us. And transformation only begins with this realization that everything that affects you from the outside, it's not happening out there. The effect is not out there. It's within you. And it's within the way you listen, the way you hear. And it's not a judgment. It's just something to open your eyes to look at a different way. Remember, I believe it was Albert Einstein, or it might have been credited to somebody else, who said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, and expecting a different result. So if you spend your whole life listening in this same way, from this same lens, expecting your life to get better, it's going to be really hard. Because you can't change the world outside you. You have no control. You can only change the world inside you and maybe see things in a different way. There's a quote most of what we react to in others is something that's resolved within ourselves. And I'm not going to say just most. It's like everything we react to strongly with others is something unresolved within us. So what if, just what if the emotionally charge you feel is not about them at all? What if it's in you? What if it starts inside? And literally, this is the biggest what if. And I've said it, I think I've said this before, and I learned this a long time ago. I think I took a course, and they said basically, don't trust us. We don't want you to look at this as gospel and look at this as ultimate truth and jump into it and just 100% drink the Kool-Aid, all that kind of stuff. They said, what we want you to do, and what I'd like you to do for a moment, is to pretend it's a coat. We're talking about this nice jacket. And I want you to try it on and see how it feels. Initially it might not, maybe it'll feel tight here and there, or maybe it won't feel right, but wear it for a little while and see how it feels over time, not the initial. So this is the code. What if you could shift the way you listen? Not just the word, but the meaning. What if you entered every conversation with one mindset? Assume positive intent. What if every interaction you had with somebody, in the background, the way you were listening, the lens you put on that conversation was assume positive intent? Imagine how your body would relax. Your shoulders would roll back. You'd sigh. Your breath would calm. Imagine how many conflicts would dissolve before they even had a chance to start. Because honestly, most people are not trying to hurt you. They're trying to express worry, fear, their care, their language of love. But their delivery gets tangled in their own imperfect humanity. What if instead of listening for what's wrong, and understand that we have years and years of evolution that's taught us to look for what's missing, looking for danger. That's our internal dialogue, our internal critic, our ego. So this is not a shortfalling of you. This is inherent. This has been with us forever. This is what made us as a species survive and do so well. But there comes a time when even evolution has to change. There comes a time when when a strategy that worked to get you this far, it's time to shed that and move into a new one, put on a new coat. So what if instead of listening for what's wrong, you started listening for the gold? Listening for wisdom hidden underneath the awkward phrasing. For support hidden behind the tough tone. For love disguised as concern. For guidance wrapped up in imperfect words. When you listen for gold, the entire soundscape of your life changes. So, a long time ago, I learned this phrase, language of love. And I do understand that there's a lot of books and a lot of people that phrase this a different way. So please bear with me. This is my internal take on this. And this is what has been really effective for my life. I'm not saying it's the truth. I'm not saying it's the best way. I'm just saying for a moment, try on this coat. And this is probably one of the most misunderstood dynamics in human relationship. People love in the way they were taught to survive. And some people carry this belief deep in their bones, like it's so deep inside them that it feels it's real. It's their reality. It's the ocean they swim in. Like some people have, life is brutal and you must be tough to survive. So they push the people they love hard. They criticize them quickly. And they hold impossible standards, not because they want to break you, because they're terrified that life might break you if you're not tough. Others carry a different belief. Only perfectionism will earn love or safety. So they point out all your mistakes like they're handing you treasure maps. Their intention is love, but the impact feels more like pressure. They're saying, I love you, but in a language you could never learn to translate. And this is where compassion begins. When you start hearing the love beneath the fear. So I want to share a personal story. So when I was a younger man, through my 20s, there was a time when I didn't have a relationship for a long time. And this was because I didn't want to be in a relationship just to be in a relationship. I didn't want intimacy just to feel some physical need of mine. I didn't want to use another human being. What I wanted was connection. And if I couldn't have that connection, then I would have rather been alone. I didn't want to hurt people. I wanted to know. I wanted to be with somebody, not just like physically or intimately. I wanted to be with them. And my dad, I guess, I'd talk to him and he would say stuff like, why don't you go and get yourself a girl? And I was like, dude, do you even know who I am? Do you know, I'm not just going to use somebody. Like, what is that? And I get so mad at him. And then I remember another time he said something similar and I was like, yeah, just like cut another notch in your belt, right, Dad? And he's, ooh, that hurt. And then at some point in my life, I heard about this language of love. And that sometimes what they're saying sounds critical or it's not aligned with who you are. But it does come from a good place. And I realized that my dad's context for a happy and good life was to be in an intimate relationship. And that he wasn't berating me or telling me to go and use somebody for my own needs. In his language, he was saying, I love you and I want you to be happy. And when I really heard that, I remember probably the next time we had a conversation and he said something like that. And all I answered was, thank you, Dad. I know you love me and I know you want to be happy. Oh, you want me to be happy. And he just got quiet. And he never, ever said the same thing again, as far as I know. Or maybe he did, and all I heard from it now was just, I love you and I want you to be happy. If you can change the way you listen to people, the things you hear will change. Maybe they're just saying, I love you, but the language is so foreign that you don't get it. So let's talk about tools, some real practical shifts that can change everything. 4 lenses, like 4 powerful practices, 4 ways to experience being quieter, kinder, and calmer in your internal world. To start off with, first lens, always assume positive intent. When you enter a conversation believing somebody is trying to support you, their words will soften instantly. You won't hear criticism. You won't hear unkindness. You won't hear pressure. All you will hear is support. It's like adjusting the lighting in the room from a dark to a very bright. Everything looks different. Ask yourself, if this person is actually truly on my team, what are they really trying to say? What message are they giving me? The second lens, always listen for gold. So if you imagine every single conversation is like a riverbed. Sometimes the water's muddy. Sometimes the current is rough. But if you sift through, there's always gold. Train your heart to look for value instead of validation. Listen to what they're saying. Listen in a way that maybe they're giving you a priceless wisdom that they developed over their life or through their many hardships. It's like many people have been through incredible battles, and they do have great wisdom to share. And the truth is, people who've been through great battles, a lot of times they're hardened. Everyone comes out with a soft heart. So it can be rough around the edges. Like when you're listening to children, if you're losing your patience with them, or like getting frustrated by them saying the same, listen to what they're saying. Listen to what's underneath what they're saying. Listen to what the guidance they're trying to give. The third lens, identify their language of love. Did they go through a hard time in life? And they don't want you to do the same? Did they succeed by being completely perfect? And that's where stability comes from. Is the world a dangerous place so you can't take risks? What is their language of love? Does it sound like perfectionism is the only path? Does sometimes like being honest, blunt, and straightforward is the only way? Translate the intention, like step outside of your personality and you're being personally hurt by words. Maybe even step outside yourself, like they're saying it to somebody that's not you, and see what it looks like. The fourth lens, get curious. Don't let yourself become defensive. If you feel defensive, breathe. Because curiosity, it's like emotional oxygen. Ask yourself, what are they really trying to say? Even through the filter of their language of love, of their way of looking at the world, are they saying this in order to have you become something that will make you safe and happy? Look at what fear or hope is behind their words. Like, what are they afraid of for you? Or what are they hoping for you? really listen. What is the love behind the delivery? I've got a couple other instances that happened in my life that were years ago in my 20s when I was going through a really rough time. Met this really amazing human being. And as I was on kind of a self-help journey, and I was in a pretty bad place when I met this person, but they were like a really incredible human being. And I think it was like 5 years later, I was once again going through a really tough time. And they sat me down and said, Kimen, I love you. But the truth is, you were in this place that you're in right now 5 years ago when I first met you. And if you don't do something, I could come back in 5 more years and you'd be in the same place. I love you, but you gotta do something. And wow, did that burn. But there was also this like, wow, my life, me getting my shit together, me finding my way past this was more important to this human being than like potentially losing me as a friend. She valued me so much and my hope for a future that she would risk not having me to make sure I got my shit together. Wow. And then a little more recently, I remember I was talking to one of my athletes and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do a marathon unless I know I can do it in under 5 hours. Cause like, what's the point? I don't want to be up there all day. And this athlete looked at me and said, Kim, what do you tell us? And I was like, whoa, thank you. Oh my God, thank you. Like, thank you so much. No, seriously, I am so serious about this. Anytime you ever hear something come out of my mouth that's not aligned with who you know me to be, call me on it. Call me on it hard immediately and don't care about like stomp on my feelings if you have to. Call me on it. Thank you. I'm so grateful. Yeah. And I'm signed up for a marathon. And it's like, I'm coming back from injury right now. And like, there's a lot of fear now, but I'm going to go and do a marathon. And I don't care how long I'm going to be out there. You see, those are two instances where I could have been hurt and pushed people away and frustrated, or just grateful for people who chose to be a stand for me. The truth is, when you shift, reframe the way you listen, creates more space. Conversations are going to feel less threatening. You stop bracing for the impact. You start hearing layers underneath that you've never noticed before because there's typically more going on that meets the eye. And you can catch the whispers of love in places where you only heard criticism. And like literally your relationships with your partners, your friends, your parents, your children deepen in a way that feels warm and grounding. You move away from reacting towards understanding. You move from defending to connecting, from interpreting through fear to interpreting through love and compassion. And yeah, it's a practice. Yeah, sometimes you're not going to get it right. But just like the last episode I released, try again anyway. Fail, try again anyway. Fail, clean it up, try again anyway. Because the truth is, time is going to pass anyway. And you want to spend the rest of your life hearing from a lens that doesn't work for your life. So like I said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That was Dr. Wayne Dyer. And I say when you change the way you listen to things, the things you hear change. And your world will become a gentler place to live. Thanks. Thank you for being with me again. Thanks for making it right to the end of this one. Keep on working on reframing things. It's not that you're wrong the way you're hearing things or seeing things, or the way you're reacting. It's not that you're wrong. It's just maybe you've never realized there's another way. And maybe if you can start working down this other path, your whole experience, especially the inner experience, will change. And that's what I mean when you're building your own inner advocate. So keep building.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Petersen, formerly Conversations with Kimen. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.